Welcome to Rubber City Throwdown. Woo! Today we've got Caged Thunder promoter, owner, operator, Randy Jarvis Jr. Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Good to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
All right, let's jump right into it, man. Let's talk about you a little bit before we do this card rundown, this awesome card rundown, man, for Caged Thunder 5.
I'm so excited.
What got you into promoting?
Okay, so what got me into promoting was just working with the athletic commission for 10 years and getting to see the different promoters and that side of things, and seeing my dad do it for the last 3 decades. I felt like I could put on entertaining fights and do right by the fighters, the most important part of that. So I just, took the leap of faith and started putting on shows, and now we're in our 5th cage show, and we've had our 4th boxing show last month. So we've been busy. 9 shows in the physical 2018 year, so it's been good.
I said, you not only promote mixed martial arts, you also promote amateur boxing as well, with Big Dog Boxing as well. We had just recorded that event for the last month.
Yeah.
It was at the Springfield High School. It was an awesome event. And you also have a gym over in Akron, right? Is it Akron?
Yeah, so we
Waterloo Road, right?
Yeah, we run a gym over on Old Waterloo Road, right by the plaza there where Bill White's bowling alley. I think it's called Bill White's.
I don't know if it's Bill White's anymore. I think they changed
It's a little more fancy.
It's still the Akron Bowl. I don't.
Akron bowling,
I don't care who you are. It's Akron Bowl with Bill White.
Just a small square, 400 square foot gym. We're in there Monday through Saturday. Mainly, I would say 95% of the people in there are in there to just work out and get in shape. The gratification of running that gym is, for me, like currently right now we have a couple guys, heavy guys that are, at the end of their life possibly, if they don't, get into some kind of fitness, health and fitness. So it's good to see them get in shape week by week. But from a fighter standpoint, it's just boxing. We just teach boxing. We could teach, amateur, any amateur boxer that we would come through there. We can give him the knowledge and the advice that he needs. But
now you did some boxing. Right.
Yeah.
When did you first start boxing? Were you young age? Or?
Yeah. So my dad, he was a boxer growing up, and I just had a huge interest of boxing. That's what I did as a kid. I grew up watching Mike Tyson, and I grew up watching the UFC 1, and I was addicted. I couldn't even watch any kind of fight combat sports, because as soon as I would see it, I'd want to do it. I'd act it out on my cousins and whatnot, and my sister. So I was instantly in the boxing world, having taking amateur fights at, I want to say, like the 4th grade. I took a handful of fights, but by like the 5th, 6th grade, or let's just say middle school, I was too busy with other sports. I played 3 sports, and you can't really do the whole boxing thing and play 3 other sports. So I went away from it, and then when I joined the Army, I was in the Army in 2001. I was stationed in Fort Bragg. And my best friend from Detroit, Michigan, Elvon Dixon, I'll never forget him. He's like, "Hey Jarvis, man, you got to come out here and come to this boxing gym." And I'm like, "That's funny you say that, man. Boxing's been a part of my life, my whole life. So I'll come down there," and I did that. Walked into the gym and started taking amateur fights while I was in the Army. Had a good little career there then. And when I got back home, my cousin, who fought in the same Tough Man that you fought in, fought I would say a handful of tough man, and then he eventually won one of those tough man, and he's like, dude, I'm gonna turn pro. You should turn pro with me, and I'm like, yeah.
We were talking about that. We actually think that me and your cousin fought in that tough man that he won. Like, I think he was the one that broke my jaw in the semifinals.
It was either him or the person that he beat in the championship.
It was one of them. Like I said, it was. They told me, I don't remember his name, but they told me it was a linebacker from Akron. It was like an Akron University linebacker or something like that.
He went to BW, so maybe it was a ball and wall.
It may be. I don't know. All I knew is that he played football and he was a linebacker, so it could have been.
Probably, yeah, it probably was him.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service. That was something that we didn't know about you.
Yeah, I honestly didn't know that. I was in the service as well. I was at 101st.
Yeah.
So.
I wasn't in the 82nd, but I was.
Okay, I was about to say. I was like, I didn't know if you were in the 82nd or not, but there's that rivalry.
Yeah.
But boxing, as you know, boxing in the armed forces is huge. So once I got into the boxing thing, life was really easy for me. The hard work and the long nights kind of ended, and I primarily my focus was an office job in the military and a fighter.
It was actually kind of interesting. Like when I was in, as you said, you were in 2001. Mm-hmm. I was in 2010, 2011. Summer of 2010 is when I went. They're more focused on. Like, I competed at Week of the Eagles in the combatives tournament. And it was an MMA style, jiu-jitsu style setup where they kind of veered away from the whole boxing thing too. Like I couldn't get into boxing when I was in.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that was an option for me. But what was an option was combatives, which was just basically military style of jiu-jitsu and judo.
Same here.
And but when that Week of the Eagles, they did their competition was 3 rounds of jiu-jitsu. And then I think it was 2 rounds of basically like slap fighting, so jiu-jitsu, and then you can open palm slap the shit out of somebody. And then
there's a name for that. Isn't that? Don't they do that over in Japan?
Dude, isn't that the worst thing you could do to another fighter though?
Well,
it's just to open palm slap the shit out of them.
When they have the 115-pound division, which was meant for girls, and you have a dude that goes because the girls and guys, at Week of the Eagles,
of course,
they compete against each other. There is no separation. So we had a guy in my company who was 115. He actually cut weight to get to 115 so he could compete against the girls. Him slapping the shit out of girls, and people they're getting mad at him, but you can't really get mad at the dude because what's he gonna? He wants to win.
So was this his strategy though? No, so that he could just slap the shit out of all the women.
He just wanted to get that Army Accommodation Medal for winning Week of the Eagles. But the funny thing is that he fought in the cage. Because when you made it in the finals, it was basically an amateur MMA fight. He fought a female lieutenant who beat him in the first round by armbar. It was hilarious.
It's one of those things that you look back at on your military career and you go, why did I do something like that? I'm just wondering if that's what he probably did.
Probably not. He's probably just one of those guys who I don't think he thought anything bad or anything wrong with it. He was just like, yeah, screw it. I'm gonna slap the shit out of everybody who comes in here. But no, that was fun. But that was the big thing. I didn't know if the military, like Ohio, because it seemed like in Ohio and like everywhere else, when MMA blew up, boxing kind of faded, and it was mixed martial arts was kind of like the new hotness, and I think
definitely.
The military kind of jumped on board with that too. So instead of doing a boxing competition at Week of the Eagles, they did a mixed martial arts type style competition instead. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
We came up and fought. Our Fort Bragg boxing team came up and fought at Chaparral in 2003. Yeah, 2003, 2004, something like that. Huge crowd, sellout crowd. I think I heard you talking on one of your early podcasts about the events at Chaparral, and it's a great place to have a fight. It is a great place to have a fight.
It is, yeah. So
Dude, I remember when Chaparral's used to be on Old Wilbeth over by 22nd Street.
Yeah.
And the only thing that you really heard about Chaparral's back then was their band and their color guard. And now you're hearing a lot with Chaparral's being associated with MMA. I mean, it's MMA has become this
not so much that
explosion.
you're just now hearing about it, because I mean, you guys.
Oh no! I'm just saying in general.
It's like, my first tough man was at Chaparral's. My second tough man was at Chaparral's. My MMA debut was at Chaparral's. Yeah. So it's only fitting. That's all I know.
Right.
I didn't even know it was a bingo hall for the longest time. To be
you
honest
okay over there, bro?
Oh yeah, I had a little indigestion.
Oh, is that, I was just trying to make sure that you weren't trying to swallow the mic or something.
1,000 people in there, 1,100 people in there is perfect. It's the perfect setup.
Can you even fit that many people in the shower?
You can.
I thought that it was 800 was the
No, the
capacity, right?
that's the capacity outside of the wall. Inside the wall with the walk around, you can fit about 1,100 people.
I've seen it close to that.
Now the fire marshal doesn't really like it that packed, but on the other side of things, they look at standing room only being up to about 1,100.
Right. But so getting into Cage Thunder a little bit more. So, were you actively involved with Cage Madness when it was actively? Because I know your father was involved with Cage Madness. Were you involved? Were you kind of on the sideline? You said you worked with the Ohio Athletic Commission.
Yeah, I was just like anyone else. The Athletic Commission would send me an assignment and say, "Hey, you're showing up to work this Cage Madness event at Chaparral Center," and that was it. I had no involvement, zero.
So then after Cage Madness kind of, they I don't want to say sell out, but after they kind of went there, they shut down, and Dan went his way. Your father didn't follow Dan's path, and then all of a sudden, now here's the rebirth of, or the birth of Cage Thunder. Now you're the face of Cage Thunder.
Right.
Ultimately, why did you decide after Cage Madness had gone down that you were going to step up and be the owner, operator, and the face of Cage Thunder?
Well, I just there's so many good fighters in and around Northeast Ohio. Like I was telling you guys earlier, I think there's everyone can have their piece from a promoter standpoint of putting on good fights, and there's enough good fights out there to entertain the fans, the MMA world community, I should say. But that would be I got out of coaching, so I was a high school baseball coach and a high school football coach for the last 10 years, and I got out of that, and it was just like the timing was perfect. It was almost like, well, you're not going to be coaching, 3:30 to 6:30 every evening, 7 days a week. So what are you going to do? And this was it.
So you turn back to your hobby.
Yeah, turn back to.
I mean, that right there could only be the perfect mixture of ingredients for the best ideas.
It's almost as a kid, I started in the fight game, and then I went on to other sports. This is kind of similar. I was a coach, and then that part of my life, chapter of my life, came to a close, and it's like, well, let's go back, start running the gym, catching mitts, teaching fighters, and putting on shows.
That is amazing, dude. That is an awesome view.
Yeah.
It started with boxing. I mean, I'm a boxing guy at heart, but when the opportunity came for,
you got to go with the punches. No pun intended. You got to advance when your surroundings change. You have to conform to them.
Yeah,
right. And that right there just tells us a lot about what kind of a person you are, and what kind of a coach you would be. And that's amazing, dude. I'm ecstatic. I love the Cage Thunder shows, man.
I have like this distant memory.
Yeah, we go back
11 years.
deep.
Well, 11 years ago. Yeah, maybe 12. It was like 2006. It was shortly after that Tough Man competition. Your dad had offered me a professional box to go pro in boxing. I remember this. He goes, I got a show in September. So September of 2006. He goes, I got a show in September for you if you're interested.
I followed that show.
Yeah. You replaced me.
Okay.
That's the memory. The guy that you fought I was supposed to fight. I think.
Who
I don't
was
know, but because your dad had
2006.
I guess you guys had a gym in Green.
Yeah.
And your dad told me to come to that gym and train. He's like, if you want to go pro. And at that point, I was like, hell yeah, let's go pro. And I wanted to do MMA. And at the time, I didn't know that if you went pro in boxing, you had to be a pro in MMA. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad that kind of fell through. But yeah, your dad's like, yeah, but you're interested in going pro. I got a car. You guy for you to fight in September. You come to my gym and train. We'll train you up and we'll fight. I went to the gym, but like nobody was there, and I was like, I don't know. And then I kind of didn't hear anything from your dad for a little bit, and then I got in contact with him. Finally, he goes, went ahead and just replaced you with my son. My son's gonna take that fight.
Yeah.
And then just this memory. This distant memory.
Which is hilarious because about maybe a year ago, his memory was shit.
Yeah.
So I think he got back on ginkgo biloba or something because now he's able to remember all these things.
My short-term memory.
Nah, I'm just fucking with you.
well.
I'm just fucking with you. I don't care about your short-term
But
memory.
no, I thought that was funny because you're like, I fought on that card. I'm like, yeah, I know. Because your dad told me that you would replace me, and like I said, I'm glad that he did, because if I would have fought on that card, I wouldn't have been able to start my MMA career. It would have been February of 2007 was my debut. So, and your dad was the one who actually got in contact with Kalikas for me, because I told your dad, I was like, I actually don't want to do boxing. I want to do MMA, and he goes, I get you in contact with this guy. Here you go.
Yeah,
Call
right.
Greg Kalikas is his name. Get in contact with him. I'm like, oh, thanks. And then that was it. And
see, these are the kind of interviews that I enjoy. Just a bunch of guys just sitting down, reflecting on back and past, and then bringing it back to the future. And it makes great.
Well, that was the original plan with the podcast when we created it, and then that first year it was basically like a news channel. Everything was scripted.
No joke. So when we first started, it was hilarious because I wasn't on the camera then. I was running everything behind the scenes, and I was like, you know what? I want a microphone.
Yeah.
So I'm buying me a microphone. Norm's like, no, you don't need a microphone.
Yeah, because you were our tech guy. Like, why the hell? He wanted the show. You know how many times I've heard this guy, well, when Rover's Morning Glory, they do this.
Yeah.
I'm like, this isn't Rover's Morning Glory.
But then look at what happened. What happened? The format changed to exactly like Rover's Morning Glory.
Not necessarily, but like it finally developed and it finally turned into a podcast and not a glorified radio show.
Something about putting the headphones on and talking into the mic, you get, kind of.
Yeah, you just get that
robotic
feel.
a little bit,
almost.
Yeah.
But now, so tell us a little bit more about what are your goals with Cage Thunder? What do you want to do with it? Where's the future going for it?
So the goal has always been to stay small and keep it here in Akron, and surrounding areas of Akron. It's never been to be the next NWFS or anything like that. It's been just hometown fighters. Good fights for the people in the area, and maybe give that start to the next Devontae Smith or the Stipes of the world, the Jessica Eyes of the world, the people that you watched here in your local small town debut fighters. They're small, they're making their debuts, and you can see, wow, there's maybe some potential, and then you just see them grow through the promotion, through moving on to bigger promotions and things like that.
You see, that's a big thing with us. That's one of the big things. When we're looking at the card, when we start going through the card, and we see a guy that is making his debut, it's one of the big things that we love about that is that we may not necessarily talk about them in detail because we don't know them.
Right.
And the best example that I can give is Tim Hughes.
Yeah.
When we first covered him, he was making his debut. He might have only actually had one fight. I think he was 0-1, but we didn't know anything about this guy at all. and we only kind of liked him at first because of his nickname, the Honey Badger.
Yeah.
And we're like, this guy's, let's just check him out, man. Let's just cover him. We didn't really have much information.
Then he starts giving us all this information about Fightopia.
We hit him up with the pre-fight interview, and then we talked to him after the interview, and then next thing you know, he's like, I want to come on the podcast. So then we him being 5 hours away, we're like, well, we could do like a Skype setup. So we did a Skype interview, and then like I said, we started building that rapport with this fighter, and then it basically, like, his last fight, he broke his arm against William Ferguson, and he literally wouldn't let the paramedics leave unless we came and interviewed him in the back of the paramedics. So if you go to our page, you can actually find that interview and we don't typically interview a loser of the fight, but he refused until we interviewed him. And that interview,
we actually stay in close contact with him even now, about his progress of his healing and whether or not he's getting back in the cage right away. And it was just the guy's got this personality. It's infectious almost. That you can definitely feel the passion that he has for the sport and his competitive nature, and it just draws everybody into him.
The point is about bringing that up and using Tim as an example. Was we were talking about this kid who was a nobody when we first talked about him, and then
he was on a roll.
I was commentating his title fight.
Right.
So it's seeing guys progress, like you said, and going, oh man, look at this guy. This guy, he's green. He's 0-0. He's making his debut.
Will he make it, or will he hang it up?
This kid in the next year may be the next, Devontae Smith,
Stipe, or
Stipe. He may be that next guy, and we will have that interview.
The record back there, all the way back when, of
just like a promoter,
just starting out.
You can turn around and say he fought on my show. Yeah. We can say, we interviewed that guy.
I mean, the NAAFS has so much that they can brag about because it didn't Stipe. He fought on the.
But Stipe was the face
of the NAAFS
for many of years.
That bragging right followed his career all the way up to the heavyweight championship.
Well, I mean, hell, Greg Kalika's ended up managing like Jessica I and Stipe. When Greg was the promoter of the NAAFS. So, there's a lot of opportunity for a lot of people.
And it goes back to what Mr. Jarvis said, was that there's plenty of action for everyone in this industry. I mean, you've got different promotions that fall away. They grow to something different. I mean, the UFC started small somewhere too. Yeah. So, it's always about everybody else. And I think you do a great job at what you do. And thank you so much for everything that you do.
I think when the timing's right, and if we want to grow, as a company and an organization, we will. But we're not there yet. We're not even close to being there. So
you're only fifth show in.
Right.
You're still technically in your. Your first show last year was
Thanksgiving Day show.
Yeah. So you guys you're a year in, and so.
My dad was big on the Thanksgiving Day show, so I kind of try to keep that theme alive.
That's what I tell
This
people.
Is my first Thanksgiving show. Yeah. I didn't even know it was a thing.
Yeah. I tell people, they'll be like, there's really a show on the day before. I'm like, dude, that's every year, man.
It's the show.
And then, I was talking about it yesterday. If you heard the podcast, my mom was on the phone. She goes, you guys are doing what the day before Thanksgiving? Why wouldn't it be the day after? I was like, yeah, you try and get a fighter to cut weight the day after he just stuffed his face. Yeah. That's not happening.
From a fighter standpoint, it's a great time to take that fight and then enjoy the whole, not only Thanksgiving, but
Christmas, New Year's. I mean, nobody's going to want to try and cut weight during the New Year. Oh, screw that. I would be dead.
It's hard.
I'm going to put on at least 20 pounds in beer alone on New Year's. I don't care.
So, lastly, touching up on the Cage Thunder, on the promotion, what do you guys have anything big? How many shows are you guys looking to do in 2019?
So 2019 we have 5 shows at the American Legion that we're going to be at on Wednesday in Kent, and we're going to try to have a boxing show in the afternoon and a pro-am cage at Summit County Fairground on March 23rd.
Oh, dude, that is
I heard
great
about that.
venue.
I actually heard about that, and I was like,
that is a great idea. Yeah. I mean,
I remember with
we did wrestling.
Jeremy did his wrestling. His sister promotion with the OCW came on there. I don't think the turnout was.
That was hilarious, man.
I don't think the turnout was what he expected, but I think that was because it was wrestling.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, there was still a lot of people there, but
To put amateur boxing kind of like a pre-MMA, like, hey, come in early, get your tickets, get your seats, let's watch some amateur boxing, then we'll jump right into the.
Yeah.
I do have
MMA.
a question about that. I don't know if you're going to be able to answer this or not, but so what would be the possibility of having the same fighter on those two different cards?
A fighter take an amateur boxing?
And then take an MMA fight? That wouldn't work with the OAC, would it?
God, that's a great question.
Like
Because then that would also
fighter, like he boxes in the show
and then turns over to
he fights on the MMA.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Okay, I understand that there's a lot of work that's put into both.
Yeah.
But, in the event that the fighter wins, he's not going to be required by the OAC.
Well, first off, I don't think that if a fighter lost, that he's suspended in amateur
No,
boxing.
they're not.
They're not. Okay, so that was my only concern.
But the big thing is
Number of rounds. I think you're only allowed, like the tough man competition, you can't. That's why it's tough in Ohio, because you're only allowed X amount of rounds in a night. I think that would come into play with if you're going to do a 3-round amateur boxing match and then a 3-round.
Well, is it rounds or time? Does the time in the rounds have anything to do with it? Because I know with tough man, we did 2. I fought twice in one night in a tough man, and that was a 3-round.
Yeah.
So,
but were they 1-minute rounds?
yeah,
or were they?
that's what I was asking about time, because the ones mine were 1-minute rounds.
So then it would probably come down to the decision of whether they're 90-minute or 60-minute rounds.
I mean, ultimately,
to that.
Probably something we need to figure out, because we'll probably have some fighters trying to do.
Because I mean, that would be a great way. I mean, competitive nature at its finest.
Let's throw
man.
this out there. I know Scott Corbin, he's going to listen to this, and he's probably thinking the same thing I am right now. It's probably not a smart idea for a fighter who's fighting MMA to fight boxing before his fight. Because
if there's a 2-hour window in between, dude, that's a rest time.
What if you break your nose, you break your hand, and now you don't get approved to fight from the doctor? Now you're looking at suspension further.
So then you go back to the boxing card and you say, hey, do you want to fight this guy?
No, absolutely. I don't know. Your OAC is going to get involved.
That's the only reason why.
Your hand, and now you can't fight this MMA fight. Now you're suspended because because in boxing you're not locking into a contract.
Right.
Right.
In MMA you're locking in and engaging into that contract. So that's the difference, and that's where I don't think it's smart, but it may be allowed, but I don't think it's a great idea. All right, let's let's run down this card. Something we do Fight Week podcast. So
what you guys have done on this is just wow. We saw a Nautica card and we thought that was awesome. Yeah. This is right up there with it.
This is a good card. There's a lot. Even the guys who were originally supposed to fight on this card, who are no longer fighting on this card, are pissed that they're not fighting on this card.
Right.
So, it's definitely a good card, and I'm happy that we're going to be there, and we're also, we're not only doing pre-fight interviews, we're actually recording the event. Yeah. So,
which thank you, by the way, that gives us
thank you guys.
Yeah, this is a first for us, actually recording an event. So
fighters love to see themselves on camera. They like to watch the fight video. They like to have it forever. 20 years from now, you can pull that video up.
Dude, we get people calling us and texting us and sending us messages on Rubber City's page, constantly going, hey, do you have my fight from like 5 years ago?
Right.
No, we weren't there then. But it's one of those things where you will now.
Yeah. I'm looking at the amateur side of things, and the main event, Justin Patterson and Braden Liggett, there's probably 4 other amateur fights that could be a main event. Amateur, on the amateur side of things. I mean,
Mo Miller and Canyon Tackett could be.
Oh my God, that's
gonna be a really good fight.
Very, very good fight.
We've covered Mo Miller a couple of times.
Max Mees and Jesse Hinderman. I mean, I know Jesse Hinderman is a virtually unknown in Ohio, but I mean, the dude's undefeated. He's from West Virginia. Yeah. He's a hell of a wrestler. He's both of his wins. He's undefeated 2-0. Both of his wins are submissions in the first round.
Correct.
So there's a lot of good fights. Let's start at the bottom of the barrel. Let's talk about. Actually, I don't even know if this is bottom of the barrel as far as this website's concerned but let's go with Steve Williams and Tony Tucker. Is this fight still happening? Correct.
I'm trying to see if I can see that on the card. Tony Tucker.
Maybe at the bottom. Now, Steve Williams is 3-1. It's a bantamweight match. Yeah. Tony Tucker, his last recorded fight weight was a featherweight. It was 145, and then you have Steve Williams at 135. So when you get that, it's kind of like we don't know where they're meeting.
I don't. So the new updated fight card that's not on that fight is
not
off.
on there.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And then, we'll move on to the next one then. And I'll say some names and
we'll start.
We'll confirm or deny. Confirm or deny.
Yes, sir.
So, we'll get the words out your mouth at some point tonight, dude.
Well, Lawrence O'Malley and Harrison Flinner.
Yep. So that's gonna be the first fight of the night.
And these are two guys that are making their debut.
Yeah.
And this is was this a catch weight, or they ultimately decided that they were going to meet at welter?
You know what? I'm not 100% sure on that. I have to talk to Scott.
Because I always see it like you got Lawrence, whose last recorded weight was 165, and then you got Harrison, whose last recorded was 170. So when I see something like that, that only tells me one thing: that Lawrence is naturally walking around 170, maybe 175, and Harrison is walking around like 185, 190, and he's cutting hard to get to 170. Right. And that reminds me of. That takes me back to like when Darnell Truitt fought Casey Turnbull, and Darnell was walking around at 167 when he weighed in.
Yeah,
and then Casey actually had to cut more weight, and he was walking around at like 190. Mm-hmm. So when he rehydrated, he had like a good 20 pounds on Darnell, and he just thrashed Darnell in the first and second round.
I remember that. That fight was at the Knights of Columbus, wasn't it? Yeah. That was a good fight.
I mean, I said Darnell was up against the cage, and he was more defending than anything. He did get a good double leg takedown on Casey, and but it just wasn't enough to really. You kind of expected Casey to gas out in that fight, with the amount of volume that he was throwing, and he just never did.
I'm going to take a good guess over here about the Lawrence O'Malley. He's 30 years old, 5'11", 165 pounds, like you said, and he's coming out of West Virginia, where his opponent's coming out of Ohio. Mm-hmm. I'm going to guess and say that he's been doing this for a long time, and he just hasn't taken a fight yet, and this is his last hurrah. Because normally, what's the age? Isn't it 35?
They start making it tough. We have to get all kinds of tests.
If he's coming out of West Virginia saying that he did this for a long time, it's probably not accurate. If he did anything for an extended period of time, judging from where he lived, it was tough man competitions, and he wrestled.
Okay,
those are the two big things that when you look at a fighter coming out of West Virginia, those are the two big things. The biggest thing is wrestling.
Right.
Most of these guys who are fighters out of West Virginia, they're wrestling.
Right.
It's all wrestling. Or tough man competitions, what I'm saying? Like we'll touch on it later when we talk about Chris Miles and Donovan, who are two West Virginia fighters fighting each other.
Right.
We'll touch on that a little bit more, but yeah. So he may. I mean, if he's 30 years old, honestly, it might just be a new thing. He was like, you know what? I don't want to do tough man anymore. Or maybe he had a buddy that was fighting MMA, and he was like, oh, what promotion? He might be.
Right.
Say we don't know anything about him, so he might actually be friends with one of the other West. There's like this. What is this? The fourth West Virginia guy?
I want to say probably about 4. Yeah.
So he might know one of the other guys.
I mean, here's what I'm seeing on this. You've got a seasoned person here. He's 30 years old. He's going up against a younger competitor. He's going to be. Both competitors are going to be really hungry at this. So what's going to be the outcome? And that's what I get excited for.
Yep, definitely.
I always like when we do the pre-fight interviews on the guys who are making their debuts. I'm always curious to see like what their work ethic and their training ethic looks like.
Well, you've said it yourself. All right, when you were in your 20s, before you went into the military, you were a different kind of fighter.
I had a shit work ethic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you're going up against a person with 5 years on you, their work ethic is a hell of a lot stronger most of the time. Now, this could be the exception, who knows? But it has a lot to play into the game, which is, where are you grinding every day? What are you doing? Are you going out and having Wendy's every night and then thinking that you're just going to be able to walk into the cage and step on them?
It was almost like when I turned 30, it was like my work ethic changed. It's really weird.
Which was a year ago.
Same here. No, I think I don't think that's that uncommon, really. I think, obviously fighting is a young man's game, but I think from a discipline and work ethic standpoint, I think you're constantly evolving and getting better. The older you get, it's just will your brain, will your body take you far enough in the fight, when you're 30 years old. But 30,
I had the same conversation with Andrew Law.
Yeah.
He almost to the T said what you said, like, yeah, you're constantly evolving the older that you get. Right. It's and then it's almost like it's kind of like a fighter maturity almost. Like you just get like this different type of work ethic. And the older that you get, it's like life wisdom almost.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's like you're smacked with reality almost like 29 years old.
Yeah.
You think that it would have been around 18, but you're still playing around with your life. And it just goes from there. But let's move on. Let's get over to the next one. What is that? Clavon Hill
Hill versus Byron Norwood. Yeah.
This is gonna be a very
hell yeah. I mean, look, you got Clavon Hill coming in here 2-0. His competitor Brian Norwood 2-0 as well. They're matched up pretty well. Clavon Hill's last recorded fight was against.
They have both fought for our promotion.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And that was with Paul Moore, right? That would be Clavon's last opponent.
Correct,
he did win. Mm-hmm. And of course, my phone went completely retarded.
And then Byron fought in the Knights of Columbus show, and I believe that was that March 3rd.
Yeah.
For us.
Yeah, he fought Brave Mentor. He fought Brave Mentor at March 3rd.
Yeah.
Okay.
Both of these guys, looking at the 2-0 records, kind of ahead of the curve of a 2-0 guy. Just from a standpoint of the knowledge, their fight, fight knowledge, and yeah, that's going to be a good one. Byron's a good kid, man. He's a quiet kid. My interactions with him have always been pleasant, so it should be.
Is he a boxer too? Does he do any boxing?
He might. He hasn't fought for any of our shows. I think he does. I think he does do some boxing.
I could have swore I think I came across his profile on social media, and I think his profile picture looks like it was taken at a boxing event.
Yeah.
Like the attire that he was wearing when he took the picture. I mean, I didn't obviously pull up the picture and just stare at it, but it looked like a picture that
you stared at
after you just won a boxing match.
So. You looked at him and he was like, I want to be like him.
It's possible he's actually fought an amateur boxing show on one of our shows. I just can't remember off the top of my head. I don't want to say something that isn't true.
Right. But these guys, I mean, both of them are undefeated 2-0, and they're both over 6 feet tall.
Well, you've got Clavon, which is coming in 2 inches taller than Brian Norwood, but once again, Byron,
yeah.
My bad. I apologize.
That's all right.
But you have to give it up for the matchmaker once again, because how often do you find both of your fighters coming in at 185? Mm-hmm. It's not that often, especially for the last recorded weight.
We'll see if they both come in at 185.
We've seen things happen.
But no, I mean, it's cool. You look at their fight history too. I mean, like Myers got both his matches were wins by submission.
Well, then you've got Clavon, which has got what seems to be
submission, and then he has a TKO. So you look at that and you go, they're both comfortable on the ground.
And both of them, well, not both of them, but both of Clavon's wins were in the second round within 20 seconds.
Okay.
His first submission, the submission win was in 25 seconds, I believe, within the second round. And then you had his first win, which was by referee stoppage due to strikes within 20 seconds.
Who was that fight? Who was where he stopped the guy due to strikes?
That would have been Stephen Hale, and that would have been for Alliance MMA.
Okay, yeah. I'm trying to think.
Oh, I apologize. It wasn't 20 seconds in the second round for Stephen Hale. That was 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Okay. I apologize. The 20 seconds in round 2 was for Cage Thunder 4 against Paul Poor.
Well, you got a 2-0 versus a 2-0 in the second fight of the night. So just for the fans to get there early. There's some good fights throughout. Not just at the back half of the fight show.
Right.
We actually have that. If you go to our page, we actually have the
actual fight. Yeah,
the Paul Poor one. We have that fight recorded.
That's right, because you went to that one.
Poor?
Yeah.
So Paul Poor was the kid that he just walked through.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm remembering. So Clavon is the. Am I saying that right?
Clavon.
Yeah, that you didn't get much of a. For me, watching that fight, you didn't get much of a standpoint of where he is as a fighter. He looks like a fighter, definitely meets the eye test, but he didn't meet much resistance in that fight, to say the least.
Right.
And now we've got a familiar name coming up.
Tristan Constant coming up. We've another guy. We've been covering Tristan since his debut.
Correct.
And he debuted against Damon Morosco.
It was yes, his
he ended up losing against Morosco in a fight that he feels. I know he definitely feels that he should have won, and he was hungry. We did an interview with him over Skype, and he was like, you know what, I'm hungry now. That loss really woke him up, and he ended up winning his next fight against
Michael Webb.
Now Michael Webb is. You don't want to take any credibility away, but like you just said, like you don't really see who you are as a fighter on a win like that. Now, nothing against Michael Webb, but Michael Webb is that fighter who, again, when you talk to a guy who is making a debut, if you remember when I said that one of the things I look forward to talking to an 0-0 guy is to see what their work ethic is like and where they train and all that good stuff. Well, Michael Webb trains in his garage.
Correct.
He does a lot of cardio, a lot of running outside and stuff like that. But as far as training goes, he doesn't really do anything. I think Michael Webb's first fight, he was training with Justin Meese in a garage.
Yeah.
And that was the event that Justin Meese came in like 10, 13 pounds heavy. And then Michael Webb got knocked out in the first round in 8 seconds against Tyron Reed.
Yeah.
And then you got Michael Webb's second fight against Tristan Constant at Nautica, where nothing really changed except that he got like a buddy or something that knew a little bit about boxing that kind of helped him out a little bit.
Helped him out with his striking.
If you look at the that fight, he beat Michael Webb in the first round in 28 seconds.
Yeah.
So he tripled tripled the amount of time that he was in the cage.
And he's only 22 years old.
But who, Tristan?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
like his progress as a fighter
is going to be,
great.
I think, fighting a guy like Joel Chamora. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, I think that's
Chamira, yeah, something like that.
I mean, even though he is making his debut, and we don't know anything about it, it's still. Right. Tristan is still in that stage of his MMA career where he's still trying to prove himself.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I always go back to Tim Hughes because he's one of the better examples in this case. Tim Hughes, he lost his debut, then he came in and he won, and we were kind of like, okay, you won, congratulations. Now what can you do? And then his third fight, when he ended up beating Eric Posen.
Oh yeah,
and Posen was 3-0 and a hell of a kid, one of the best strikers in Northeast Ohio.
He was ranked number 3 or 2,
and got knocked on his ass. Tim got knocked on his ass in the first round,
and then
made some
realized
adjustments and was like, all right, dude, I'm not, I can't stand with this kid, and then ended up finishing and beating him in the second round via triangle choke. So
one of the best fights I've seen.
That's where I'm saying was like Tristan is still in that phase right now, and at that point in his MMA career where he has to prove himself now. He has to prove that, he didn't just beat an out of shape, poorly trained Michael Webb. And again, no offense to Michael Webb, but I mean,
he's a great competitor.
What happens when you train in a garage, when you don't have a gym, and that may not be Michael's fault. He may live in an area that doesn't offer that kind of training within a reasonable distance.
I mean, look at Piqua, Ohio. All right, let's go back to Timothy Hughes. All right, Piqua, Ohio did not have anything going on for them with MMA at all. Mm-hmm. And then they were able to put something together with Fightopia.
Johnny Connor came in and they decided to open up a gym. And
then that's where Fightopia was born. That's where Timothy Hughes is. And then the whole Fightopia crew, man, they all bring a pretty big game. So you're right. Michael Webb may be in that kind of situation. I mean, hell, we had Cody Stevens being in the same boat, being all the way out there in the boondocks, and then all of a sudden he has to drive all the way up to Cleveland to be with Strong Style.
I won't use. They don't want to use that. I mean, Mansfield has they have gyms. They've got that rec room is there.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
Mitch is there. Yeah, he's got it there. But Cody went to Strong Style because that's where the quality of training he needed
partners.
was-
I would
that
maybe
was
training
there.
partners.
You know, that's why he was going to Cleveland.
I think Joel. I want to say Joel was with Aries Fitness. I think Dave trains that guy.
Well, he's.
I'm pretty sure. I'm almost positive he does. So if that's true, you know he's going to be prepared. Dave typically doesn't put guys in that aren't prepared and aren't going to represent the name well. So
Dave typically doesn't put people in anywhere.
Oh, here we go.
It's tough.
Here we go.
It's hard to get him to commit to put fighters in, but when he does, the guy is usually game. So with that being said,
I want to say that one of the honor shows that we were at, Dave Graff was there, and I believe this is the guy that he was talking to me about. He was a little bit older. He's 30 years old, and he said that he was training a guy that's going to be on a card soon, and he's going to be a beast.
Well, if it's anything, if it's one thing that Aries is criticized for is cherry picking fights,
right?
And I'm not personally saying that. I'm just saying this is the criticism that got the word of the MMA community is why it's so hard to get Dave to commit to putting one of his guys on a card, and why a few guys have actually left the gym because of that reason. It's because they want to fight, and he's like, no, it's not the right fight. Typically, when he agrees to a fight, it's because he really believes that the guy that he's putting his fighter up against is either a pushover or not. He's not that. He really
his confidence level on.
He's confident that. But if we've been covering Tristan Constant for a long enough time period to know
Tristan's not somebody to walk over.
He's not a pushover, and that takes me back to when Jacob Bostic fought Kanan Tackett at Cage Thunder. That's basically my wife who works with Jacob Bostic. You know, she would come home and she'd tell me, like, yeah, he's confident, he's fighting this guy. And I remember she called me up and was like, yeah, Bostic, he's fighting Kanan Tackett. And I was like, ooh, that's going to be a very interesting
He's
fight.
a tough kid.
And yeah, sure as shit. I mean, that and I know a lot of guys who train at Aries, they predominantly wrestling.
Right.
So now I'm kind of curious to see if
that's what Dave.
wrestling.
Dave actually even says himself that his wrestling coaching is a hell of a lot more in depth than a lot of his other stuff. So
I mean, they've got that Walsh jiu-jitsu, that hybrid.
Yeah. That
hybrid training or whatever the hell they're calling it right now, and it's basically it's wrestling. It's just what you see with Daniel Cormier and those types of fighters. That it's because everyone knows that MMA right now, wrestling is the dominant style.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Dominant style. So if you're a really good wrestler, like if you're a regional or a state championship caliber wrestler, you're going to at least win a few fights in MMA, guaranteed. You know, that's just how it is. And 90% of amateur MMA fights are won based on wrestling and cardio, aggression. That it doesn't really start getting into skill until you're like 4, 5, 6 fights in, and then you start fighting guys who have been around the block for a little bit.
I don't think you can. If you're, an athlete, you can learn. You can pick up boxing and striking. The foundation that you have to wrestle, it starts at 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. It's hard.
Right.
It's hard to get that back. You can only train so hard to get that back.
Yeah.
Well, the next fight is actually going to be kind of. I mean, I don't know. This is a little awkward for me. And that's because Jason Bevley versus Josh Kessinger. Is that one still on?
Yes.
You've got a record of Jason Bevley being 3-8-0. His last recorded fight was a loss, and then the previous one was also a loss, but they were both in 2017. So he's coming in off of a year.
Yeah.
And, he's got a losing record right now. So what are we going to do when Josh Kessinger with a 2-1
Right.
comes in here?
Yeah, but look at the last 4 fights that he had. Brandon Odom, Drew Schottenheimer, Justin Julian,
Right.
Alex Brown. Like, look at the caliber of fighters
That he's going up against. Right. No, I was not. I was
to mention,
definitely.
He's also 36 years old.
That's what I was getting into was, I'm definitely not taking away from the type of fighters that he was fighting.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. These guys that you were going up against, they are
they're just some
hard.
killers, man.
Right.
Yeah.
They are hard hitting and they're ready to freaking rock.
Beverly's been around for a little bit. We actually covered him.
Yeah.
I think when he fought Alex Brown. I think that was.
Yeah.
I think we covered him in 2000.
That was Honor Fighting Championship 1.
Was that one?
That was 1. We did not cover him.
Who did we? Hold on. I swear to God,
We never covered him because the previous one before that was in April of 2017. That was at Cage Madness 47.
that was the one that we covered.
We did a card rundown. We did not cover the
Yeah,
Cage Madness.
Yes, we did cover that one. Because
It was at
that
Tadmore Shrine. Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry, I apologize.
I knew the name was familiar. I knew we covered him.
Yeah, you're right.
But Justin Julie, man, what happened to Justin? Where did he go? Not to run off topic or anything like that, but
It's okay. We go down rabbit holes.
It's always interesting when you see these guys that have 10 plus fights in the amateur and maybe not on the right side of things, but
I just think it's
you respect them for taking the fights that they take, and
right.
sometimes it's fights like that that make these cards go. When you got to fill it up. So
Of course, definitely.
I'm thinking of who's a guy like a Barbie. This one guy, that comes to
Joshua
mind.
Barbie?
Joshua
Yeah,
Barbie.
Joshua
That comes to
Barbie.
mind. It's got a
Wasn't he on
16
Nautica?
fights or so, and
Yeah, Joshua Barbie was on Nautica, and I think he lost that one, didn't he?
yeah, he lost. And then you got guys like Tyron.
Joshua Barbie was the one that you were talking about. How his appearance changed within after weigh-ins or something.
Mm-hmm.
You said he dehydrated, and then as soon as he rehydrated, he was like a freaking blow-up doll or something.
I have no idea.
Was that Josh Barbie? No, that wasn't Josh Barbie. That was Pumping Man from Florida.
No, you're talking about Marvin.
Marvin, yeah, Skipper.
Marvin Kirk.
Marvin Kirk,
The pro
okay.
that fought Alexa from
Oh, yeah.
Myrtle Beach.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
But,
Sorry, I even got his place wrong. I'm thinking of Florida.
They're talking about his opponent. His opponent's got 3 fights, 2-1. He's 41 years old.
Wow.
And his last recorded fight was in 2009. So you got this guy that's coming in after.
Oh yeah, he's pulling a Norman right away. That's what he's doing.
The money that you got to put up to get these tests, these CAT scans, and what the commission makes you do.
Yeah, I
these
could
guys
see
have got
it.
to be,
Saving money from 2009 just to make it. Yeah,
their heart's in the right place. You got to really want to fight to not get paid as an amateur and to put up your own money. And even
Right.
with health insurance, you're still paying out of pocket a pretty good chunk for.
Oh yeah, because that's not preventative. No.
Right. I don't think that the OAC should do these kind of tests for guys who are 35 plus. I mean, they should start that at 40 or something.
So you're thinking that it's more along the lines of the prostate exam thing? Should wait till you're 40?
Well, the bad news is they're probably going to start. They don't do it with amateurs. I'm sorry, they don't do it with amateurs, but they are going to be moving forward in 2019, I think, with amateurs. So pros at 35 and older have to get all these tests. Amateurs do not, but they're trying to change it over where all amateur pro 35 plus, you have to get all these tests.
That way they stop the problem of brain swelling and stuff like that.
Yeah. I'm excited for the next fight too. If we all right to move on to.
Oh yeah, definitely. There really isn't much more to talk about those two.
I was just thinking of Christian Wentz with the 0-2 record. I'm thinking Christian. I believe has fought both of those fights with our promotion. Maybe one of those was with Honor, but he's always been in tough. Every time he's been in tough. And
No, you're completely correct. Both of his losses were for Cage Thunder.
yeah, he's been in really tough fights, and he's been close, in both occasions, and just missed, So
It sure was. I mean, both of them, 2018 April, and then you had March.
He fought Austin Looney Tune.
Yeah,
man.
that's right.
Actually, we have that fight on our page as well. We recorded that last event and
Unanimous decision.
Yeah, he ended up losing that one by unanimous decision. And Austin's a good fighter too, man.
And then the one against Charles Hereford, it was a split decision. So yeah, the guy went all the way. definitely.
And Christian, his original opponent was actually I don't remember who his original opponent was for the life of me, but this guy that he's fighting, James Baldridge, is they found him on short notice, I believe. Because I remember, Scott had hit me up and was like, "Hey, it's a go, that fight." They had to wait for the contract to go through within the last week. So it was a short notice fight on James. He's stepping up to take this fight. And I say James is he's 0-1.
Yeah, his last recorded fight was a loss, unfortunately, for IT Fight Series 83. Round 3, triangle choke was the way he went down, and it was in about 1 minute 25 seconds against a Mike Arita.
Gotcha.
And then, moving on.
Luke Chokin.
We've covered Luke before. I mean,
Carson Mills.
Carson Mills is a real good wrestler, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Carson's tough, man.
Carson's coming in at a 2-0 record, 5'6", 135 pounds, his last recorded weight, against a Luke Chokin. Like Norm said, we've actually covered him a couple times, maybe more than once.
What do you guys know about Luke?
So yeah, Luke Chokin, he's got a 3-2 record right now. He's coming off of a loss though.
Yeah, but he's coming off of a loss against Nolan Stahl, and that fight was a title fight for Pinnacle, and he lost that fight in the third round, 58 seconds of the third round by submission. So, like I said, if there's anything that I know about Luke Chokin is that this dude is hungry, he's ready to go, he's been training his ass off for this fight, and this is going to be very interesting. It's going to make for a very interesting fight. And you say Carson Mills is a beast, man.
Yeah.
He's undefeated. He's 2-0.
Right.
And his last fight was against Justin Griffin, and that was in April of 2000 and April of 2018, and that was actually for Caged Under 3.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Yeah, both of his
remember that fight.
Yeah, both of his wins.
And he fought Garrett Davison. Yeah.
Bunch of big slams. I remember in both of those fights. There's some big slams from Carson.
Wow. I mean, it's I wouldn't say obvious due to it being on a piece of paper, but it's verbal submission. So yeah, he ran him through the ringer. That's for sure.
I remember this fight against Garrett Davison, man. The slams. Yeah. I remember that.
Yep.
I really do. I mean, Garrett Davison, he trains at Victory.
Yeah.
And Garrett, he just fought on the Cage Thunder's last card, I believe, too. He ended up losing. I know it was a very he looked good, man. Garrett looked good in that fight, and unfortunately ended up losing. And I know Terry wasn't happy about it, but he was getting better. But now getting back to Luke and Carson, man, this is going to be a very interesting fight, man. Like I said, I follow Luke on social media too, so I know he's in the gym and he's grinding every single day. He's hungry.
Good.
That loss against Nolan Stahl. I mean, I also follow his activity as well. I mean, both guys are a hell of a fighter. So this should be.
That loss was not taken, for granted at all.
Right. These fighters are lucky to have a matchmaker like Scott Corbin taking care of them and putting the right fighters and fights in front of them to grow in their mixed martial arts career. So
Scott, there's not too many. There's certain people out there that'll look. I can't stand it when they look and they look at a card and go, oh, well, this is the card, land to slaughter. Basically, look at this guy, bad fights. That person's gonna win. It's like, shut the hell up. Like, Scott does a great job.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a reason why he's taking care of a lot of these fighters, and a lot of these fighters love going back to Scott and saying, hey, what's coming up next? Yeah. I mean, the rapport that they have with Scott is just amazing. Definitely. And the guy deserves.
Well, I mean, the guy, he takes matchmaking to a whole new level. I mean, seriously, you matchmakers that are out there, how many of you can say that you have paid for a fighter's blood work out of pocket?
Right,
that
exactly.
You've helped pay for a fighter to come from out of state, to help their travel expenses out of pocket. You know what I'm saying? Scott, he can say that he's done that. He's
very dedicated to what he does.
He's the definition of putting the fighter first.
Right.
That's what he does. It's not just because he's trying to fill his own pockets, man. It's very easy for a guy to go, hey, man, I don't have the money for medicals, and Scott to go, oh, sorry, bro, we'll scratch you off the list and we'll try to get you in next card. No, he goes, all right, well, listen, man, what can we do to help?
Right.
You know, I've got this place here. Why don't you come check it out? Maybe I can help you out a little bit. You got to pay me back. And you know how many guys have fucking burned Scott?
Oh, yeah.
And not paid him back?
Too many.
A lot. And he's still doing it. That's what it takes to be successful in this business. So all you matchmakers out there that are criticizing Scott and giving him shit and talking mad shit about this guy, take a look in the mirror and ask yourself, what are you willing to do to make sure that a card is successful?
Right.
All right. But moving on to the next one, this is gonna be interesting. We got Mac. I haven't seen Max Mees in the case since I think he fought Walters, man. Mike.
Yeah.
And that was
Was that our second show? I think it was our second show. Yeah.
Max Mees has a 4-1 record.
and that one came from Aries, Mike Walters. So
Yeah.
Mike Walters is a hell of a wrestler
He
too.
is tough.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I've actually sparred with Max, and Max is very unorthodox, like striking style, and he's a hell of a grappler too. You know, he's a really good striker, he's a hell of a grappler, and yeah, he took that L against Mike Walters, and that goes to show because wrestling, that dominant wrestling
right.
style of fighting, man. And like I
Max-
said, Mike's good.
I think Max change camps over to strong style after his loss too. So he's been with strong style for a handful of months.
Yeah,
now.
a lot of guys have kind of moved on from what I've seen from Evolve, and that's where Max was at for
Yeah.
a little bit. That's where I had actually sparred Max, was when he was over at Evolve, and then he went ahead and packed his bags along with guys like Roller and everyone, and moved over. And Roller didn't go to strong style though. I think he's training up at with Alonzo Harvey up at Rising Dragon up in Cleveland. But
I think I know everyone that is from strong style that's fighting on this show are real excited about Max. They said he's had a great camp, and they're looking forward to seeing him.
Well,
I mean,
anytime, I always go back.
Wednesday.
Right? When you're my argument with strong style was always like, if you're a new fighter, you should probably not go to strong style. I mean, don't get me wrong, they have like an A squad, a B squad, a C squad, and that's the problem. It's a lot of these guys go, I want to be an MMA fighter, I want to fight in the UFC, I want to fight where Stipe trains and Jessica I trained, and all
You're going to be
that
on that
stuff.
C squad
You
for
know
a
what I'm
couple of
saying?
years.
Yeah, and you're gonna go in there, you're gonna realize that, oh shit, I can't even get near these guys. I'm not
Right.
training with these guys. I'm over here training with these people, you know, and you're trying to fight, you're trying to get better, but you're on the C squad, you're on the B squad. You know what I'm saying? They have different coaches.
Right.
You think that your striking coach is going to be is going to be Stipe's striking coach? No, you're going to have somebody else. And I think it's like Brian Gideon. I think is one of their boxing coaches as well.
Yep.
And you're going to have a completely different striking coach. You're going to have a completely different jiu-jitsu coach half the damn time. So being a new fighter and going up there, not recommended. Now a guy like Max Mees, who's already established, he's
right.
kind of already been out there.
Yeah.
He's a hell of a fighter. Going to strong style, he's gonna get the time. He's gonna get the work. And so if they're excited and they're confident, then we should also be excited.
Max got a good following,
yeah.
man. He's got a lot of people come watch him fight.
He was
too.
already a hell of a fighter to begin with, so he only can get better by switching to a camp like that too.
And to take this much time off after that loss to get things right and tweak some things. So it should be
But
good.
I'm also like,
Dude, I'm kind of hesitant on this on his competitor though, Jess Henderman.
I would say I'm not going to take anything away.
No,
I'm not
definitely
going to
not.
take anything away from Hinderman, dude. This guy's got 2 first-round victories by one by submission, one by TKO, man. He's undefeated. He's fought for Hard Knocks. So,
Right.
I mean,
But he's coming in 2 years later. His last recorded fight was in 2016. So what?
well, what's he been doing?
Right. What have you been doing? Did life get in your way? And see, this is the media coming out of me though.
The life of an amateur mixed martial artist, man.
Right, of course.
Work, family.
and then possibly the military. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it all pops up. So life. We don't know.
But,
all
you
I
know,
do know is
there
that
is a
he's
huge-
all I know is that Max hasn't fought since his loss against Mike,
True.
and Jesse hasn't fought in a couple years, but he's undefeated,
Right.
And he's got 2 first-round victories. So, you're
And
not
this is
gonna
also
count
one of those West
Jesse
Virginia
out.
guys too, obviously because he's coming out of Hard Knocks. But you know, it's one of those things where you're also looking at it going, Max Mees is 19 years old, and then we got a 32-year-old
It's crazy to think he's
vet
that
coming
young.
in.
19
Right.
with 5 fights.
I know.
already.
Exactly,
man. That's
exactly.
crazy.
That's nuts.
Young.
Moving up, we got Chris Miles and then Donovan. Okay, so this fight, Donovan was originally supposed to fight George Pointer. George Pointer got a rib injury. Fucking dude got hit by a truck while he was at work, dude.
Dude, that is
Completely
nuts.
George did.
Yeah, George did.
And I remember he came into practice and his whole side was just bruised up and everything. And it just, like, George wanted this fight. He
Yeah.
wanted it bad, dude. I mean, the amount of shit talking that these two were. I mean,
Dude, we were gonna
setting
set it up. It was gonna be great.
He
We
looked
were
good in his
setting
boxing
this
in the box ring too. I was excited for him.
George is one of the. I remember talking to him. He goes, "I don't know if I should cancel," and I think he was more worried about who's going to get mad at him. Like if Scott was going to get mad, if you or
Yeah,
Dad
no.
were going to get mad, if I always pulling out of the fight. You know, he didn't want to
Just take pictures of your injury and
Right.
just show it.
It's
That's
a
all it
pride thing, and I get it. Rib injuries are no joke.
Tough.
If you,
Very
all
I
it
mean,
takes-
you just came off of a rib
yeah,
injury.
and I was out for 3 months. So all it was going to take was for George to move the wrong way, turn the wrong way. This is a super heavyweight fight. If he
Yeah.
grabs this kid, who's well over, I think he's like 300 plus pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he
you're
goes to
300
move him,
pounds.
and he ends up popping that rib and he busts the cartilage, man. That's it. Like he's out for months now, all because he pushed himself for this fight. But what better person to step in? Undefeated 2-0, up and coming super heavyweight from Huntington, West Virginia,
right.
where I lived. And Chris Miles. Now,
Right.
Chris Miles is a hell of a competitor, man. He fought for Cage
Yeah.
Thunder in his
Yeah.
last fight.
Yeah.
And this guy is a wrestler to the bone. He's a coach. He's a wrestling coach. But don't get me wrong. This guy can strike. He can bang. Looking at Donovan, I think that he was one of the tough man guys. Now he's got a wrestling background, but
Yeah.
I think he was one of the tough man guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, I
Right,
really
right.
want to ask him when we do his interview on Wednesday. I really do want to ask him what his background was, and I also am curious about the transition. All these West Virginia fighters, that transition from tough man and everything to mixed martial arts.
Right.
Is that though it may not be a new concept in Ohio, in West Virginia, MMA
It's
is
still
kind of a
working
new
its
concept.
way there.
Yeah, so
But
it's
it's
still
not
Transition of
there.
like the training aspect of
Yeah.
what are they going to do different? What, are they going to train more? Yeah, definitely.
Right.
and the video, the clips that I've seen of Donovan fighting, I mean, some of the shit that dude was doing was hilarious, man. I mean, he came out with like a flying crane kick at one point, and I was like, man, dude, this is gonna be an awesome fight.
Right.
You know, this is gonna be.
I mean,
interesting.
to do a flying crane kick at that weight is, you know, hey.
Everybody
seen-
loves the big boy.
So if I was to dissect this fight with Chris Miles and Donovan, like I said, being a super heavyweight, Donovan has to be in shape. He needs to be in shape for this fight because if he doesn't, Chris Miles, with a strong wrestling background, is going to take Donovan down and he's just going to thrash him. He's going to wait till he gets tired. He's going to wrestle until he's tired, and then he's just going to finish him up. So, I mean, he has to be in shape. That's the number one priority. If Donovan's training hard, that's what he needs to work on: wrestling and conditioning.
Right.
Moving on, let's talk about this next fight, man. This is actually arguably one of the fights we're talking about that could have been the amateur main event with Mo Miller and Canyon Tackett. Both fighters are undefeated. Mo Miller is 4-0. Canyon is 2-0. And, you know, Canyon, well, actually both fighters in their last fight came off a very impressive victory.
Right.
You know, Mo seemingly ran through his last opponent, and Canyon was able to withstand the wrestling onslaught of Jacob Bostic until Jacob wore down, and then ended up going in for a sloppy shot, was able to capitalize on him and you know, catch him in a rear naked choke, finish it out in round 2.
Right, and you know, we've actually covered Mo Miller a couple of times already, and every time that we've actually covered him, he always came out real strong in the beginning, His striking ability is on point for the most part. I mean, I have yet to see anybody go straight up and try and stand and bang with him and be able to walk away from it.
I think Canyon will stand and bang with him, and I think that's where Mo will have the most trouble when it comes to the fight it with Canyon. I think he's going to try to use his wrestling experience to win that fight, and I think Canyon's best chance to win that fight is to hurt him early, standing, and then move it to the ground. Mo's last fight did it go the distance, or did he fought with us? If it didn't go to the distance, it went to the third round.
I want to say it did go to the third round, and I think it was like right in the second, maybe a 2-minute mark.
He dominated the fight, but he was tested in that fight.
Yeah, he fought Tyler Meese, and he ended up winning by unanimous decision.
Okay.
But yeah, his fight before that, he fought for honor. He won in the first round via submission. So, yeah, it's he's definitely. Yeah, I agree. His last fight, though, he definitely was winning the whole time. But yeah, he ended up winning by unanimous decision.
I could see the winner of this fight propelling them to bigger promotions. The winner of this fight, especially if it's an impressive. Whether it be a dominant unanimous decision or a big knockout, I could see these guys getting possibly calls from bigger, promotions and moving forward.
This fight for Canyon, it's all game plan. He comes in with the right game plan, then he'll come out victorious.
Right.
So, and he's definitely got to withstand that wrestling,
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Mo's a grinder. He will show up. That's for sure. So
let's talk about this next fight: KO Dorns Butler versus Chase Boyd. Dorns or KO 4-2, and Chase coming in undefeated with a 2-0 record. From what I've seen of Chase, he not much of a striker.
I would definitely have to agree that his wrestling game is his grappling game is a hell of a lot better than what we've seen before.
Yeah, I mean, that one fight he had, he took the guy down. And there was barely, I swear to God, there was only like 10 strikes the entire 3-round battle.
Right.
As soon as the guy would come in to strike, they might throw hands 1 or 2 times and then bam, right to the ground, kept him there. In order for KO to come out on top in this fight, he needs to be able to successfully, defend the takedown.
Right.
He needs a transition. He needs to be able to transition if he is taken down back to the feet or into a more dominant position against Chase. I'm not 100% on what KO's game plan is coming into this fight, but if it were me, feints, takedown defense, transition to a more dominating position. So
I agree completely. But once again, here's another fighter that's coming into the cage. We've also covered a couple times before as well. KO Butler, KO's stand-up game. It's impressive. Yeah. So he's gonna want to work him. He's gonna want to stand and bang with him for a while.
KO's a tank. He's a bulldozer, man. He comes forward. He's always moving forward. He's always moving forward.
Right.
He chased Braden Leggett around the cage for 3 rounds.
He has a very strong game plan when it comes to pressuring his opponent, and that's I can see him doing that in this aspect, trying to pressure his opponent onto the cage and trying to dance him around a little bit more, maybe exhausting his
with
opponent.
Chase, from what we've seen, that could be bad for KO. KO moves
True.
forward. He's moving forward. Chase hits a level change, takes him down. Now, if KO starts working in some of the feints, he notices that level change. Now he knows, okay, this is what's going to happen. The biggest
But can we be assured that he's going to make that game plan change?
We don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you 100%. That's just what I would do, judging from what I've seen in Chase Boyd. So that's the biggest. That's gonna be the hardest thing about KO going into this fight and wanting to stand and bang is as soon as he goes to throw even a 1-2 combination, Chase drops his level, tries to take him down. It's going to turn into a wrestling match. So now KO now he's defending the takedown. If he does get taken down, he has to transition to a more dominant position. And, that's what needs to happen. If that doesn't happen and he can't seem to make that transition, it's going to be a very long fight and a very long night for KO.
Right.
But moving on, let's talk about Braden Liggett and Justin Patterson. This fight right here,
That's gonna be oh man.
I don't
this-
know much
this
about
is-
Justin.
We've covered Justin before. We've seen
Yes.
Justin before. This guy's a grinder. He's a hell of a wrestler. I believe he's with Mitch, right? At Rec Room. He's
I
still up at
believe so,
Rec Room,
yeah.
right?
Gotcha.
This guy's a grinder. And,
He
I mean,
loves to draw it all the way out to
very-
the third round. Loves to do that if he can.
I mean, he was very impressive in his last fight. Now, granted, he hasn't fought in over a year, but I mean, his last fight he won in the first round via a submission triangle choke. The fight before that, he won by unanimous decision. So that right there tells me that his cardio is good to go. And then his debut was round 2 Americana submission. So the guy, like I said, he's
And
a
from what I
wrestler.
understand, the Americana is not an easy hold to
Yeah,
get on.
It is. It's not that difficult.
I meant get out of.
Oh no! Once it's in, it's in, man. But
Yeah.
that's like any submission. Once you kind of
Right, that's true.
Once you get it in, it's hard to get out of. But I mean, no, Justin he utilizes his wrestling, and then from there imposes his will on his opponent, and then submits him. Problem is that Braden Liggett also is a good grappler.
Right,
He
right.
has submission victories on his record as well, and training at a T County Boxing Academy, he's got some hands.
Yeah.
He can strike. He can stand and bang.
All these
But
guys do.
Based
Oh,
on
yeah.
his last fight when he fought Lucas Mass at Nautica,
That's
we
right.
learned right then and there that, if somebody is in his face, in his bubble, and cuts the cage off and doesn't let him escape,
He starts to fit it.
he's susceptible to
right.
takedowns. He's susceptible to wrestling. And as long as Justin is able to keep him on the ground like Lucas was able to do,
Right.
it doesn't matter how many strikes from the back you throw, you're going to lose that fight.
Right.
So, honestly, I think, in my opinion, bad fight for Braden, good fight for Justin based on stylistically. But it also, Justin may not come out trying to wrestle. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? He may come out and just want to stand and bang, and then now we're fighting in Braden's world.
Well, Braden's been active. I mean, he's been boxing a ton, amateur boxing. He's been extremely active. I think if he can hurt him early and let him feel his power, I think it could change the course of things.
Well, this is the main event, the amateur main event. This is a fight. This is the fight that a
Yes.
lot of people are going to have their eye on. Both fighters, like I said, 3-0 for Justin. 4-1 for Braden. So these are top end. These are the high end amateur
Right,
competitors.
right, of
where
course.
These aren't guys making their debuts here. These guys have been in the game for a little
Yeah.
bit, a couple years.
Dude, we can't stress it enough how awesome this card is amounted up to.
Sure.
Norm can't even stress it enough. This is going to be one of those matches, and the whole card is going to be one of those types of setups where you can't afford to miss it.
Yeah, you want to get there on time and see all 13 fights. That's for sure.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, even fights like this next one with Chad Kelly and Marcus Allen, man.
That's right.
His first, the first of the 2 professional fights that were happening.
Right.
There were going to be more, but
was 3,
there
yeah.
was one that ended up falling through. And James Pfeiffer was
Right,
yeah,
we were actually-
we've covered him before when he fought for Honor. The dude's a hell of a fighter, a hell of a competitor. I was looking forward to seeing him back in the cage as well. But
Maybe in the future on
Right.
our March show we can get him back.
Right.
and then with Chad Kelly training out of strong style, 2-3 records, 6 foot, about 185 pounds if you're coming in at middleweight. With Marcus Allen, his last recorded weight was 220 pounds, so he's got a little bit of a weight cut especially if they're planning on meeting at middleweight. And then with Marcus Allen with a 1-2 record. So record-wise, they match up.
Wait a minute, what's this?
Not
Hold on a
sure
second.
stylistically.
All right.
Oh, so now you
Oh,
want
now
to
he
join?
is.
Now you want to join?
Ladies and
the
gentlemen, the co-host Brian Clark. Hope
Brian?
he's got his voice back a little bit.
It's in and out, but I'll try. We'll see how it goes.
So
Welcome to the tail end of the podcast.
Better late than never.
Talking about Chad Kelly and Marcus Allen, what do you think about this fight?
I think that fight could end up being like a bloody mess. They both hit hard. They like to strike, and it's one of the ones the crowd, the general MMA fans, are gonna love to watch. But it's,
Well, they don't call Chad Kelly the Butcher for
Right,
nothing.
right.
Yeah, I like
These
that
guys here
nickname.
to-
Gangs New York. Gangs New York there.
No, I'm happy to see Chad again.
Right.
I think that the last fight that he had that we had covered for Honor didn't do him diligence. I think that he's a lot better competitor than that fight. I think this is going to showcase that, and I can't wait to see this fight. Let's talk about our main event. The main event,
man.
professional-wise. We've got Jeffrey Pelton and Jacob Miller. Jeff Pelton another strong style fighter,
Correct, yeah.
5-2. Jacob Miller, undefeated, 3-0. Both guys around the 6 foot mark. Now, is this fight at lightweight?
Yeah, 155. Yeah.
Okay, because I know Jacob Miller's last recorded weight was 185.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So he cut all the way down to
So
155.
yeah, he's cutting
Wow.
down. This is a lightweight fight right now, and like I said, Jacob Miller being undefeated. 25 years old. He's got an 8-3 amateur
Yeah.
record, so a successful amateur record as well. Has fought guys like Zach Davis, Keith Speed, James Sanchez.
We'll get there. We'll get all the words out of your mouth at some point tonight.
Zach Davis was the guy from New York, right?
Yes.
That fought on Nautica.
Yes.
Actually beat was it Logan? That was Zach Davis, right? And then I mean even his amateur record, man, he's fought guys like Jason Mullen, Nick Gould, and he's got a pretty impressive fight resume. Right now, he's got 2 first-round victories, 1 by submission, 1 by knockout, and then he's got a 3rd-round TKO stop. So, I mean, the dude's finished all 3 of his fights. Pretty.
Yeah, everything I've heard, he's good on the ground, good jiu-jitsu guy, grappler.
Now, Jeff, tell Jeff. You were talking a little bit before the podcast. You said you used to.
We used to teach together at the same school in Kent, and this year he's over in Garfield Heights, just closer to his house in Lakewood. But yeah, Jeff and I didn't know each other until last year, and then I started, following his fights, traveling with him to fights, and became a fan. So,
I mean, he's coming off of a loss against Nick Brown, which is that's
a big name.
Nick Brown he's a good fighter.
Yeah.
So even taking a loss against a guy like that doesn't really, like I said, it doesn't say much for the fighter. You know what I'm saying? But
No, it doesn't say much for the loss.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. I mean, you lost, but you lost against a hell of a fighter too.
I think
I
he's been
don't
putting
know
a lot
much
of.
stylistically. I've never seen Pelton fight. So
He's a southpah.
Is southpaw?
Yeah.
I mean,
Really?
Is he more of a striker, or is he more of a take you to the
Well,
ground and kind of get?
I mean, he's an All-American at Notre Dame, so he's a wrestler. But
that's interesting. I didn't know that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's.
It's kind of like a wrestler. He's a grinder.
He's a grinder.
He'll grind you out wherever it goes, kind of a thing.
He will strike, but he's I believe that he's been putting a lot of work on the ground ever since the is it Nick Brown or the Nick
Yes,
Brown?
that's what-
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think he's been spending a lot of time working on his ground game. So I think it's going to be entertaining.
Right. Well,
dude,
listen,
I love this freaking
Oh
card.
yeah, we're really definitely looking forward to this card, and if you guys feel the same way, make sure you head on down November 21st, the day before Thanksgiving. We do it every single year at the American Legion, located at 1945 Magna Road in Kent, Ohio. Again, that's November 21st, where the doors open at like 5. Fight
Doors
start
open
at
at
7.
5. Yep.
Again, at the American Legion, 1945 Magna Road, Kent, Ohio. It's Cage Thunder 5. Till next time.
Rubber City 25 coming up.